We're returning now to our coverage of the Victorian election. Joining us with some analysis is Michael Danby, the former Labor MP. Michael, really appreciate you joining us on this election day. You've been an observer of Victorian politics for decades. What is your expectation for the result today?
I'm like everyone else. I expect a minority Labor government, them to lose a few seats. The key question for Australians, I think, is does Andrews go into minority government in coalition with 6 Greens? Greens have 3. The Liberals are preferencing them in 3 key seats. If they get to 6 and Dan Andrews gets around 42, then he may be reliant on them. That will make this government more left-wing than it is now.
Well, Premier Andrews is insisting today that no deal will be done with the Greens or independents, for that matter, in the event of a minority government. Is that realistic, Michael?
No. I mean, the numbers count. If he gets to less than 45, he has to go into minority government. If he gets to 42, he loses 3 of his own to the Green Party on Liberal Party preferences. Then he'll have to talk to them. He will hope that if he goes into minority government, he does it with other independents. I don't think there's much of a chance of Matthew Guy winning. It was an insipid debate on, thank heavens that Sky screened it though. His legacy is going to be, in my view, a minority Labor government in effective coalition with the Green Party.
You mentioned the independents. We've all seen this momentum from the Teal movement on a federal level. Broadly, how are you expecting that movement to go at this election?
Good question. I think they might win a couple of seats. The betting has their candidate, who's a former Labor candidate in Caulfield, against David Southwick, the deputy leader, winning. And that your channels canvass the possibility of them winning Kew as well. So they're not quite as well funded, or not as much money as they had at the federal elections. Incredible revelations that Monique Ryan spent $2.1 million in Kooyong. Give you some reference to that, Ash, it's about 10 times what I spent when I was running a marginal seat in Ports. Just incredible. But I think they'll only win a couple here. But that could be a problem for Dan. 2 Teals plus 6 Greens will give him a big problem.
So what other key seats are you going to be keeping a close eye on this evening as you're watching the Sky News election coverage unfold? Which results are you keen to see how they pan out?
For the Labor Party is in the West. Melton, Werribee, Point Cook. If we lose some of our hard working class seats, that's very bad for the future. Some of the ones that the Liberals lost at the last election, if they win back, it's not quite as arresting, like Box Hill and Hawthorn, than if we lose some of these Western suburb seats. So that's a really interesting development. It's a sort of a Trumpian phenomenon, Ash, where the working class start voting for the right of centre parties.
You have been a strong critic of Daniel Andrews personally. You've argued that he's so powerful because there's simply no opposition to him within the party. But if he does win tonight, I mean, as a politician, he deserves real credit, doesn't he, to overcome the anger over lockdowns and secure another term. It'd be a huge achievement.
There are many people who make that judgment that you do. It's very interesting. I think if you look at all the polling, there's a sharp difference. People 40 and down have that view, and people 45 and up think that the 56% increase in energy prices, the unnecessary lockdowns, and $160 billion debt in the future are of more concern. But it's an entirely valid view, and I think he'll be back. And I think it's going to be funny for people around Australia to see that the government in Victoria will be more left-wing than it was before, not less.
Well, I guess there is also a view that any resentment towards Daniel Andrews will be almost cancelled out by the strong brand that Labor has there in Victoria, and also the Liberals' failure to cut through, and perhaps some of their controversial candidates in the pool as well. When it comes to the Liberals, if they do lose, as the polls are suggesting, what's the takeout for them, do you think, tonight? What's your assessment of their campaign?
Well, they'll be a little stronger if they win a dozen seats back or 10. I'm not sure that Matthew Guy will stay around. I think they have a real problem in Victoria with the bifurcation, the division between the ages. The millennials overwhelmingly vote Labor or Greens, whatever the economic circumstances, whatever the views of lockdown, and the support for the Conservatives is basically an ageing problem, and older Conservative or Liberal voters are dying out in Victoria.
Plenty of food for thought there. Michael Danby, really appreciate you joining us with your analysis as we wait for the polls to close there in Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks.